Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be drafting the pattern for the making of this top with Gong sleeves and a stylish keyhole neckline. If you've not subscribed, please do so, and let's begin. Here are the materials I'll be using for today's tutorial. I have my marker, my tape roll, my scissors, my long roller, my armhole cord, my gum, which is a substitute for masking tape, the fabric, and my pattern paper. As you can see, I've gone ahead to roll a starting line from which all my measurements will be taken. Now I'm marking out my shoulder measurements divided by 2, and then my neck width, which is 3.5 inches. For my neck depth, I'll be using 6.5 inch. It's going to be a V neckline. Now I'll proceed to mark my shoulder slope of 1.5 inch. Next, I'll be marking out my bust point length, my underbust length, my waist length, and my blouse length. I'm just remarking it so I can have a straight line. All I'm doing now is a basic bodice before alteration, so if you've not seen the video on my channel, I'll leave the link in the description box. As you can see, I've rolled out my lines on the marked points. Now I'm going to mark my armhole measurements divided by 2 and roll out the line which will be my chest line. I'm just remarking my shoulder measurement so I can have a straight line, don't get confused. I'll roll my neckline as well. Like I already told you, it's a V neck. I've gone ahead to label. Next, I'll be marking the round measurements of my bust point, my waist, and the blouse length circumference divided by 4. I'll be adding 1 inch allowance to the waistline for that, and 0.5 inch to my blouse length circumference. There's a proper explanation for that on my basic bodice video, which I've already said. I'll leave the link in the description box. I'm going to go ahead to connect the marked out points with my ruler. Next, I'll go ahead to measure what I have from my shoulder slope to my chest line, and I'll divide that by 2, mark it out, and go in by 0.75 just as you can see, and rule my armhole curve. I'll be marking out my dart measurement next, using my nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2 on each point. On my waistline, I'll be sharing the 1 inch dart allowance, 0.5 inch on both sides, and also the 0.5 inch I added to my blouse length circumference. I'll be sharing that as well on both sides, 0.25 on each side. And then draw my dart leg with my straight ruler. Now I'll mark 2 inches below my bust line, which is the bust dart, and draw a line with my ruler to the nipple to nipple point on the bust line. I'll then go ahead to close my bust dart and fill up the little excess you can see there. Next, I'll be doing the underbust tightening. I have a detailed tutorial on this as well, which I'll be leaving the link in the description box, so watch and follow the steps to understand what I'm doing here. Alright, I just measured my waistline measurement and my underbust line measurement, and I'm going to subtract that to know what I'll be using for my underbust tightening. As you can see, mine is 1 inch, which I'll be sharing equally, 0.5 inch on both sides on the underbust line, and I'll go ahead to use my armhole curve to connect it to the nipple to nipple point on the bust line, just as you can see. And then I'll connect it to the waistline, giving a slight curve at the underbust line, just as you can see. Next, I'll be going up by 2.5 inches from the bust line in order to do the overbust tightening. I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line with my ruler. You could decide to go up by 3 inches or even 2 inches, depending on how much cleavage you want to show. Next, I'll be marking 0.75 inch on both sides. This is for the overbust tightening, in which I'd given a detailed tutorial, and it's on my channel. I'll also leave the link in the description box so you can watch and understand the whole do process on how this is done. Afterwards, I'll go ahead to close up my bust dart, my gum, and after that is done, I'll mark 4 inches below my waistline, giving the hem of my blouse a nice shape with my pattern curve, and then proceed to cut it out before I come to the yoke part. Please watch closely at the way I'm cutting it. I'm just using my curve to blend that part of the cup to get rid of the pointy edge. Now I'm going to go ahead to label my side front and my center front pattern. Alright, now that it is done, I'm going to mark 1 inch away from the center front of the yoke and then measure 3 inches upwards. Then I placed my side front on the yoke and marked 1 inch outwards, just as you can see. That is basically how wide the keyhole is going to be. So this is just what it's going to look like on our fabric. Now moving on to the back pattern, I'll mark in all my measurements like I did for the front, just that my neck width is going to be 3.5 and the neck depth is going to be 2.5 inch and my shoulder slope is 1 inch for the back pattern. You can see that there is a difference of 2 inches from the waistline downwards. I already explained this in my basic bodice tutorial, so check it out. Now that I'm done rolling out the horizontal line, I'm just remarking my shoulder measurement on the chest line so I can have a straight line. Next, I'll be going in by 0.5 inch on my waistline and I'll connect it to the neckline and the hemline. This is to eliminate zip bulge. Now, from the 0.5 inch mark on my waistline that I ruled out just now, I'll go ahead to mark my round measurements and add my dart allowance and the 0.5 inch that I also added to the blouse length circumference and roll out the mark points. Next, I'll measure my shoulder line to chest line divided by 2, just like I did in the front pattern to get the armhole curve. But I'll be going in with 0.5 inch for the back pattern and then roll my curve, just as you can see. Now I'll go ahead to mark my dart points like I did for the front. And for this, I'll be marking it starting from the center back line, not the 0.5 inch line on the waist, just as you can see. Next, I'll divide my shoulder line measurements by 2 and draw a line from there to the dart point. This isn't compulsory, it's just something I like to do sometimes. Now, I'll be doing another tightening on the waistline. I marked 0.25 inch up and down the waistline and ruled it out just as you can see. This doesn't affect the length of our blouse or whatnot. It's just another form of getting rid of zip bulge at the back of our dresses. I'll close it up now. You can use your masking tape to hold it down as well. Now I'm just placing my side front pattern on the side back to mark out the end points and I'll roll a straight line. I'll proceed to cut it out now. One more thing I'll be doing is a shoulder tightening. I'll be marking 0.25 inch below my shoulder line and roll it out just as you can see. And that is all for the back pattern. Don't forget to label as well. Now I'll be drafting the sleeve pattern. I have my paper on fold already. The sleeve length I'll be using is 12 inches and I'll be adding 1 inch allowance, so that's 13, just as you can see me mark here. For the width, I'll be marking 12 inches, seam allowance of 1 inch inclusive. You can tell it's an exaggerated sleeve. I'll roll out the marked points now. Next, I'll come down by 5 inches on the side and make my sleeve curve, connecting it to that point, just as you can see. You might be wondering that the curve is too large to fit into our armhole. Of course it is, but we're going to make 2 gathers at the shoulder part, enough to fit into the armhole. Just going to zoom in so you guys can see what I have here clearly. Alright, now this is how you're going to cut out the sleeve pattern, and that is all for the pattern tutorial of this top. I'll see you guys in my next video where we'll be joining it. Thanks for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, share, comment. Bye guys.